Hello, friends, and welcome to the City of the Immaculata, a channel where we discuss various subjects of history and theology, with a particular emphasis, as is evident in the title of the series, on the Franciscan intellectual and, in this case, mystical tradition. I'd ask if you're watching this video on YouTube to please like, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. As well, if you have any thoughts or questions, leave some comments. We continue the journey through St. Bonaventure's mysticism by today considering God through us as image. The relevant points to consider for this: so far we have been out in the world. We have considered the world as it is in itself. We have considered the world as it is and how we consider it. This is a third step. This is the movement inward. Bonaventure leaves the created world out there, and he asks the reader to mentally go into themselves. And he likens this to Solomon and the temple, and this imagery of having gone through the outer court, having entered the temple. And while we're not into the Holy of Holies, we are in the presence of and gazing upon as in a mirror at the sanctuary. And he specifically says that the stage terminates in something beyond a vestige, an image with powers unique to a rational being. And that's what we're going to focus on here today. That's what we're going to be highlighting and bringing attention to. This inward movement, the mind enters into itself. And the first part of the mind that Bonaventure wants to take a look at is the power of the soul, the unique power of the soul for memory. Now, in medieval times, memory had a much broader meaning than it would today, and I would point you towards Bonaventure's disputed questions on the mystery of the Trinity, where he states that memory is a representation, a representation of past, present, and future experiences, where it can gather simultaneously successive things that are internal and external to itself, whereby it unifies them, making it an image of the eternal mind of God. So if you can kind of take that in, that's a very important power of the soul, to gather the things that are internal and external, to unify them into something cohesive, an image of the eternal mind of God. And memory retains and, again, represents present, corporeal, and temporal things, as well as those things which are successive, simple, and everlasting. Memory retains by three means. It retains the past by remembrance. It retains the present by receiving things into itself. And it retains the future by the power of foresight. It also retains simple principles which the mind can recall in areas such as the physical world and the mathematical and geometrical worlds, which are ruled from above and ultimately lead the mind toward God. This is a very Platonic understanding, and as many of you may be aware, Bonaventure was coming out of this Neoplatonic school of thought that was still very much present in his mind. Memory also represents first principles and axioms of science, which we recall changeless truths not deduced from sense experience, such as the sum is greater than the parts. Next, Bonaventure wants to take a look at the intellect. It consists in understanding the meaning of terms, propositions, and inferences. The intellect understands terms are grasped when they understand the definition of a thing by what it is, which results in a broader term successfully until it terminates in the broadest. So we begin by understanding term A, and term A leads us to understand term B, which is a much broader term, until ultimately we come to the broadest term, which is the term of being, known with the one, the true, and the good, transcendentals. And the intellect can know being, incomplete, changeable, composite, because it knows being, capital B, which is complete, unchangeable, and simple. So Bonaventure believes that by access to that which is unchangeable, we come to know that which is the operation of being in the world, the changeable, mutable being. We understand the meaning of propositions when the intellect knows with certainty, grounded because it is illumined by the unchangeable and the absolute. And this is kind of a turn on what we were just saying about being, because it's here that Bonaventure is introducing the idea of divine illumination, which I have touched upon in other videos. But divine illumination is the grounding principle upon which we know things with certainty. As well, the intellect understands the meaning of things through inferences. Some things can be extracted from the necessity of the thing preceding it. For example, if a man runs, a man moves. This is true whether or not the man is existent. So therefore, if something is true through inference, it must come from the eternal art, which is ultimately truth itself. And finally, Bonaventure has what in my translation is referred to as the elective faculty, or the power of the will, which is found in first in counsels, which is determining which is better, this thing or that thing. And one approaches the best as they determine through the successive series of betters. It's a very Anselmian understanding there. Whereby one is able to make judgments, which we have spoke upon in the previous of these series of videos, where according to laws determined right, but not against itself. The laws are stamped in the mind and can be reached when they are properly deliberated, ultimately leaving us through the what would be in Bonaventure's mind the most important aspect of the will, or the elective faculty, which is the desire. The will which is moved by what is most loved, happiness, which is only attained when it reaches its highest good. So if you had noticed in the previous three slides, each one of these ends with a capital letter word. And in summary, Bonaventure recirculates back to this by saying that memory leads to eternity, the intellect leads to truth, the elective faculty, the will, leads to goodness. He elaborates further by saying that the three powers of these, as they lead to eternity, as they lead to truth, and as they lead to the good, memory will bring forth intelligence when the likeness in memory is understood, generating a mental word, whereby memory and intelligence together bring forth love as the bond of both. Now, if you know your Augustine, again, you know this has a very Trinitarian notion behind it. And God as spirit has all three of these, memory, intellect, and will. And he also thereby generates a word through which comes the bond of love. All of these things, the memory, the intellect, the will, the powers of the soul, are all aided by the sciences, by the world out there, by the particular things that we are interested in studying. We spent a long time on this when we went through Bonaventure's De Reductionis, and it's just worth kind of summarizing here. But Bonaventure says that natural philosophy, which is metaphysics, which is looking at the essence of things, mathematics, the number and figures of things, and physics, the natures and powers of things, as well as rational philosophy, where we're looking at grammar, which makes men capable of expressing themselves, logic, which makes men keen in argumentation, and rhetoric, capable of persuading men. And then finally, in moral philosophy, which has an individual element, which suggests the unbegotten nature of first principles, a familial element, which is the relationship of the son, and the political generosity of the spirit. So as you can see, Bonaventure in his moral philosophy, and he does this in De Reductionis as well. He loves to pull out that sort of Trinitarian imagery. But again, all of these things, these are natural philosophy, rational philosophy, moral philosophy. They are but aids to the powers of the soul, which themselves are aids to come to the knowledge of a thing, whereby the memory, once the memory draws all the different things together, unifies them, whereby one can make a judgment and come to the desire, once the judgment is made of the thing good, to come to desire the good. And in conclusion, Bonaventure says, quote, all these branches of knowledge have certain and infallible laws, as lights and beacons, shining down into our mind from the eternal law. And thus our mind, enlightened and overflooded by so much brightness, unless it is blind, can be guided through looking at itself to contemplate that eternal light. And in truth, the consideration of this light's irradiation raises up in admiration to the wise. But on the contrary, the unwise, who do not believe so, that they may understand, it leads to confusion. All right, guys, I hope you're enjoying this. Again, if you're catching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We'll be back next time for the next installment as we walk with Bonaventure on the mind's journey to God. God bless you all.